So the two most interesting proposals I've seen on reform of the law are by Daniel Citron and Marianne Franks, two law professors who've suggested introducing into the current the immunity that they have for third-party content, so other people's content on their website, is a reasonable test. That you get the immunity as long as you've behaved in a reasonable way. And that would essentially make social media companies subject to the same law that everyone else in America is, which is negligence law. Why are they given a special get out of jail free card from negligence, which no other company, no other industry enjoys?
Yeah, nobody else does.
No.
If you put out a product, if it's a baby carriage or a car or a paintbrush, whatever, you're held to the standard of predicting that this is going to be safe.
Absolutely. And, I think that we have to understand that companies, I know what it's like to run an organization. I wake up every morning. This morning, I actually woke up at 4 a.m. worrying about money. Is the truth about whether or not I can pay my staff next month and the month after. And I know what it's like to run an organization, to worry about the bottom line. And that's why we have laws, because actually they make sure that we are not just thinking about profitability every second of the day. We're also thinking about our responsibilities to consumers, to society as a whole. And I think it's really important that we have these companies subject to negligence law. Look, we're about to launch a PSA campaign across the United States in the next few months, which just reminds people that these companies need to be subject to the same laws as everyone else. And you can only get these changes, this really simple change, introducing a reasonableness test, if people understand that things can change, but the only way you get change is if you demand it. You never get change if you just sit there and hope that politicians will do the right thing. And it's about time that we actually had a movement for change when it comes to these platforms that are having so much of an impact on our society, and we know killing some of our children. It's time that we have a movement for change saying we can do better than this.
And let's think about how outrageous a change you're asking for. That change is reasonableness.
I'm a radical. I just want reason. I'm a reasonableness radical.
Yeah. So you're not asking to revolutionize the whole free enterprise. You're just saying they just need to be held to a standard of reasonableness. That's all.
I'll tell you why this really, really matters to me. I mean, you are blessed enough to have raised children and grandchildren, but my wife and I, we're hoping for our first this year. And we, at 10 p.m. at night, this is what we talk about. I switch off after work, but sometimes we start talking about what it's going to be like raising kids. And we are scared because actually, how on earth do you raise these things that you invest so much love and time and effort and, our sort of the way that our love, my wife's love, Elizabeth's love for me and my love for her, renew itself in, after we're gone, it's through our children. And we are scared about how hard it's going to be to raise them because it feels like the world is it's a more difficult world to raise our kids in, one in which social media companies are getting away with with actually treating our kids like a revenue source and not as any great society should, which is that we put our kids first and their moral, physical, emotional development.
And let me tell you how fast it's changed. I'm in the 21st season of Dr. Phil, and we launched in 2002. When we launched, the first text had not been sent. There was not a single social media platform. There was no Instagram. There was no Snapchat. There was no TikTok. There was none of that. And so we've had to adapt and learn. I've testified before Congress twice about cyberbullying. Those words didn't even exist when we started. That's how fast it's changed. Kids used to get bullied at school. It would be in the lunchroom or on the bus dock, waiting for the buses to come. Now it follows them home. You can even change schools, but the bullies follow them. You think they're back there in their room working on their homework, much of which is posted on the site for the school. And in fact, they're in some kind of a chat room or some kind of platform where there are people saying, everybody hates you at school tomorrow. Why don't you just kill yourself? And they do. It happens all too often. Those things have transpired just since we've gotten on the air. Now, TikTok launched. This Ian, that's your co-author about this parenting program that we're going to talk about here, his daughter, Molly, tragically took her life at 14. And he said, just with what they found, 16,300 pieces of content had been saved, 2,100 related to suicide, self-harm, and depression, and had watched 138 videos. And he commented that the investigators couldn't even watch all of the content because it was too upsetting that for weeks they couldn't sleep. And a 14-year-old girl is absorbing all of this.
For my team, who are just normal people, they're kind of usually quite young. And so we have to have psychodynamic therapy available for all staff, because every now and then someone will come to you and say, is it normal to have nightmares every night? And I'll say, okay, it's time for you to go and see a therapist. It's really, really challenging and difficult content. And if parents could see what their kids are seeing, I think that A, they'd be horrified, and B, they would naturally get into a dialogue with them about it. In fact, that is really at the core of our recommendations to parents that Ian, whose daughter Molly took her own life, and I wrote in our parents guide, which we've got on our website. It's free of charge. It's counterhate.com/parents, and parents should go and download it as soon as they can, because what it explains is what are the steps in creating a decent dialogue about this. And it ain't brain science. You and I know this. It is, first of all, familiarize yourself with the platforms, and you can do that by reading the report. Then start a discussion with your kids. Say to them, look, we'd like to negotiate some boundaries here. I want to understand more about what you're seeing. You teach me about what you're seeing, and I'll help you to provide context. I'll teach you a bit about what I think that this content means, why you're seeing so much of a particular type, whether or not it's normal or not, and how you can, how I felt when I was your age, and how I can help you to contextualize some of the content that you're reading, because that's the only way that we're going to bridge that knowledge gap that there is right now between the generations in the kind of content that we're all seeing. We're not all sat around the TV anymore like we were when I was growing up in Manchester, England, 30, 40 years ago. It is a really different world in which we're isolated looking at different screens, and you have no idea what your kids are looking at.
Right. And what we were watching was passive. We weren't interactive with it. We weren't engaged in getting feedback immediately.